Hey everyone, welcome back to the workshop. Artisan Pirate here, and in today's fun scroll saw project video, we have another Thanksgiving themed scroll saw project to make and bring to life visually over here on the platform. So really cool. I feel like between the pumpkins and Halloween and Santa Claus and the true meaning of Christmas, the turkey for Thanksgiving never stood a chance. So I want to show the bird of the moment a little bit of love by making one in today's scroll saw project video. The pattern is a newer Steve Good design for those curious, and I've already got the pattern printed out to its full size, prepped and attached to our material with clear packing tape. And here is all of the material we are going to be needing for today's scroll saw project. Now I do feel like, because this is a layered design to where you build it up to give it a nice simulated 3D effect, I do feel like when you are prepping the material that grain direction plays a key part in it on how it will ultimately finish up at the end of the video today. And if you are going to paint the project, I don't think grain direction would be very key, but if you're going to do a combination of paint and stain like I plan to do and make this project, I feel like again the grain direction will play a big part in it. But it doesn't take up a lot of material. I'm going to go on and stack cut 2 and finish 1 in today's video, and then I'll have another one finished at the end that'll be cut out that I can pass on to a fellow woodworker, a fellow friend, where they can finish it in their own unique style, or out here in the workshop I can try a different finishing option for myself. So really cool. I'm going to show the design now on the camera. Here you have the turkey's body, and you have the little gizzard, the gobbler there, I think that's called, the profile, the head, the body, and the feet of the turkey. And again, we are stack cutting 2 of these out of 1/4 inch material. Then you have its 2 wings here, one left, one right. Then you have the plumage of all of the feathers in the back there. And then you have the most intricate scroll saw work on this project. It's a very straightforward scroll saw project that I believe you could bring the little ones out into your garage or workshop and make a Thanksgiving tradition of making something for the Thanksgiving holiday. So that would be a really cool spin on the project. But you see there is some internal cuts and nice details in here, and these are totally optional. You do not have to cut these out. Again, if you want to paint the project, talking about a scroll saw's versatility for the pattern and everything, you can go in and paint these details if you wanted to, but we are of course going to cut them out. So everything is pretty much prepped and prepared, and all that we need to do is move the camera over to the workbench and drill all the pilot holes required so we can head over to the scroll saw and start making some sawdust. And over here on the workbench, we are taking the Seiko Scroller's drill and a small drill bit and drilling out all the pilot holes for internal cutting. And you will note that I have a backer board behind the scroll saw work to prevent blowout of the pilot holes on the reverse side. But after all of the pilot holes are drilled, we'll head over to the Rikon scroll saw and begin scrolling. I quickly done the turkey's eyes, and now I'm releasing the actual turkey body from the rest of the material. And keep in mind, for all the scrolling here, we are stack cutting through 2 pieces of 1/4 inch material, so ultimately we'll have 2 turkey projects for the time it basically took to cut out 1. For all the scrolling on this project, I'll be using a number 5 Ultra reverse tooth blade, and it will cut through the stacked layers of 1/4 inch material exceptionally well with minimal chip out. As you can see, I've already gotten some of the smaller pieces cut out completely, and now I am focusing on all of the internal cuts on the turkey's tail feathers. And we've switched to a close-up view so you guys can hopefully get a better perspective of some of the tight turns that I am doing here to cut out all of the details. If you guys would like to try this pattern, it's available as a free pattern download over at Steve Good's scrollsawworkshop.blogspot.com website over in his free pattern catalog, and it is one of his newer designs from 2025. When I seen this design pop up on Steve's blog post recently, I knew I would want to cut it out and bring it to life visually, because as I've said in the past, I feel like between Halloween and Christmas, the turkey is often overlooked and often forgotten. So I just wanted to give the bird of the moment its spot in the spotlight, so to speak. And as I said, you do not have to do all the internal cuts like I am doing here. You could of course leave all of this blank and just cut out the outside perimeter to release the piece from the waste wood, and then go in with acrylic craft paints and paint all of these details on it if you are uncomfortable with cutting out the small details like I am doing here. But of course, as always, I am taking my time and letting the blade do the work. Here we are doing the final internal cut. This little arch shape on the tail feathers has some nice detail in it. And then we can begin releasing the final two pieces from the waste wood, and that will complete all of the scroll saw work on this project. If you guys like what you're seeing, I would highly encourage you to subscribe to my channel and also follow me across all my social media feeds under the Artisan Pirate name. I'd really appreciate the support. But just being as loyal as I can be to the cut line here, following that line to the best of my abilities. But we are coming around here to finish this piece here, and then we'll only have one other piece to cut out, which is the actual, what I would call the backer board on the project. And it only took around 35 minutes or so to cut everything out completely from start to finish. The time I am really going to have in this project is waiting for paints, stains, and clear coats to dry once we get to those stages. But over here on the workbench, we'll carefully remove all the pieces from the waste wood, and I'll put one of the turkeys together and set the other one aside so we can finish it later. But now we get our first visual of what the finished design will ultimately look like. And it's just a really cool Thanksgiving project. But now we'll head over to sanding with 180 grit Clean Spore Woodworking Shop sandpaper in the vibrating palm sander here. And I'll sand all of the pieces very carefully on the front and back side with small circular motions. And then it'll be time to begin adding splashes of color. And I'm going to use 3 different Rust-Oleum spray paints here. We used a bright fall and autumn themed orange spray paint here for the turkey's tail feathers. Done a nice rustic blue here for the backer board. And then we done a red on the smaller piece here. And for the rest of the pieces, I added Minwax wood stain. I done a lighter shade here that still allowed the natural grains and textures of the 1/4 inch material we used to shine through. And I wiped off all of the excess. And his 2 wings, I done a darker shade of Minwax wood stain. And then I set everything aside until it was dry to the touch. And then it was time to begin the glue up and the assembly process. And I dry fit the other turkey together with some blue painter's tape so I'd have a visual on how to glue the project up properly. I also had a photo of the finished design saved on my phone from Steve Good's pattern pack as well. But it did not take long to glue this up, and after it was fully glued, I left it sitting on the workbench for around 5 minutes to make sure the CA glue had dried completely and cured. But then it was time to set it back by the shop door and apply a finish. And for a finish, I used a few coats of Rust-Oleum clear gloss. And when that dried, our Thanksgiving turkey was complete.
And here we have the completed Thanksgiving turkey, cut out completely from start to finish over at the scroll saw, and it finished up beautifully with some nice autumn and seasonal decor and color in it. Really, really cool. Really happy with how it finished up. Finished it just how Steve Good had it pictured in the pattern pack you download over at his website. And I want to once again thank Steve Good for another beautiful design from his pattern catalog. Once again, it's one of his newer pattern offerings from 2025 in case you guys want to go and download it and try it out in your garage or workshops.
But here we have a nice close-up view of it. I really love the three-dimensional look when the pieces are all assembled and layered up there. Has a nice artistic stylized vibe to it that I really like. And I'm just really happy with how it finished up. Really, really cool. Of course, you guys know I love Thanksgiving because it's when the whole family gets together under one roof, either a family's roof or a nice restaurant, and we get to have fellowship with each other and just share a nice meal. Usually it's a home-cooked meal. I love the annual Thanksgiving turkey and dressing. I always end up eating too much, but it just reminds me of that seasonal time that is fast approaching. I hope all of you guys, my family, my friends, my followers, and subscribers have a happy and safe Thanksgiving wherever you are at out in the big wide world. Happy Thanksgiving 2025 from the workshop, my friends. It took me around 25 minutes to scroll, or 35 minutes, excuse me, to scroll this project out completely from start to finish. It's not an overly complex design. It's just with the nature of the tedious cuts inside the turkey's tail feathers there and the plumage behind him, you need to, of course, take your time and let the blade do the work and be as loyal as you can be to the cut line. And I did that over at the scroll saw, and hopefully the results speak for themselves here. Again, it took around 35 minutes from start to finish to scroll everything out. You could save a lot of time over at the scroll saw if you wanted to by not cutting out these interior cuts here. I just wanted to do it how Steve Good had depicted it in the pattern pack you download from his pattern catalog. But again, you could leave all of those blank, and then after you get everything cut out and sanded, you could go in and paint those details with acrylic craft paint. So that's some versatility for the pattern that you can think about when you are prepping the design to cut it out over at the scroll saw. But after everything was cut out, we removed everything from the waste wood carefully and sanded it up nice and smooth with 180 grit Klingspor Woodworking Shop sandpaper and the vibrating palm sander, being very careful not to break anything. I did break away one of the tail feathers there, and I did have to fix it with medium grade CA glue and activator. But after everything was sanded up nice and buttery smooth, we started to apply splashes of color. And for the turkey's body and his wings, we did 2 shades of Minwax wood stain, a lighter shade and a darker shade that still allows the natural grains and textures of the 1/4 inch material we used to shine through. And that's why I spoke about grain direction at the beginning of the video. If you guys remember, if you go back and re-listen to it, I feel like if you're going to stain the project, you need to, of course, make sure all of the grain direction when you are applying the pattern to the material is in one uniform direction so it all lines up properly. But if you're going to paint the entire project and it's going to mask off the grain, I don't think grain direction would play a role in the long run, if that makes any sense. But while the stains was drying, we spray painted everything. We spray painted everything first and then stained everything, but we spray painted the turkey's gobbler, his gizzard, the wattle that's there on his beak, a nice burgundy red. We done the tail feathers, the plumage, a nice bright seasonal fall autumn orange, and then the backer board we done a nice blue color that I've used in the past in videos. And I think it all came out fantastic how everything just tied together. And after everything dried, we assembled everything with medium grade CA glue and activator. And after that dried for around 5 minutes, it was time for clear coating with Rust-Oleum clear gloss. And you can see how it adds that nice glossy sheen and texture out here in the lights of the workshop. But again, the skies are the limit with how you finish and make a scroll saw woodworking project out in your garage or workshop. You could, of course, use exotic or hardwoods and use those natural colors and textures to have them as the color for your project to where you wouldn't even need to add any additional paint or stain or anything like that. But I do think the clear coat we added at the end, the Rust-Oleum clear gloss, really brought the Minwax stains and the colors in the Rust-Oleum spray paints to the forefront and tied everything together. And keep in mind, we stack cut, again, as I said at the beginning of the video, so I have another one here that's not even sanded up. It's fresh off the scroll saw, and I've loosely taped it together to show you guys how it looks fresh off of the scroll saw there. And this is the result of stack cutting, and again, taking your time and letting the blade do the work. I can pass this one here, this bare one, as I like to call these, without anything on them. I could pass it along to a fellow maker, a fellow artist, and they could finish it in their own unique way, or I could finish it up in a different way out here in the workshop myself. But here you see, with a little bit of time, practice, patience, and effort, you can make a design go from this to this and give it a whole nother characteristic. Now, of course, you could stain everything here a uniform color or paint it a uniform color, and I still think the details would come out great. If you make this design and finish it in a unique way, please let me know down in the comments or send me a picture of it. I'd love to see it and interact with you guys. That's what I'm here for. I love to teach scroll saw woodworking and talking about scroll saw woodworking. But really, really cool, just in time for that Thanksgiving meal here in 2025. And now we will transition into holiday and Christmas themed scroll saw project videos to finish out 2025 with, excuse me. And I hope you all continue to stay tuned and like, share, follow, and subscribe. I also think this project would look good if you blew it up a little bit and made it a little bit bigger for a nice centerpiece. I think it would be a great centerpiece now, you know, if you put a little stand on it and put it around like a cornucopia, some fruits, a basket of fruits or something like that. So always options and creative versatility for each and every scroll saw pattern and project you come across. And I also feel like if you have a laser engraver or laser cutter out in your garage or workshop, the pattern itself could be imported into the laser software and you could also cut it out over on the laser. And just one more thing before we close the video, I feel like if you cut this project out and you did not do the internal cuts here, again, some of those are very tedious to cut out with the small details in them. I feel like you could take the little ones out in your garage or workshop and cut this project out with them to introduce them to scroll saw woodworking. Again, it's not an overly complex pattern, and you could finish it with them to have a seasonal memory with your little ones while they are still young for the Thanksgiving season. So hopefully that makes sense. But that's going to be about all for this one. If you're new to the channel, hopefully you'll click that subscribe button and also follow me across all my social media feeds under the Artisan Pirate name. As always, links to contact me as well as all my social media feeds will always be linked down in the description box below these videos. That's about all for this one. And remember guys, if I can make it or do it, so can you guys. I'm the Artisan Pirate. Take care. Happy Thanksgiving 2025. And I'll see you guys real soon.